Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 3 in the Gender and Identity course. This week's theme is the case study of Pakistan, and we have Sadaat with us, who will tell about the transgender history, but also about the development and the rights of LGBT people in Pakistan as it is now. And we in Humanity in Action, we work with Sadaat and two transgender activists through this whole gender and identity project. And we had them with us during the Pride Week in Copenhagen, where we did a lot of cool projects together. And I think that Sadaat will be better off introducing himself, so I'll leave that to him. But I will ask you to please ask questions throughout the whole presentation. You can just press the Q&A button to the left on the toolbar, and I will read up the questions to Sadaat for you, so you can just feel free to ask anything if there's something you don't understand or if there's something you want to have elaborated. Or otherwise, you can just comment on what he's saying. But I'll leave the word to you, Sadaat, and for all of you students, please enjoy the presentation.
Hello, my name is Sadaat Munir, and welcome to my bedroom, I would say. I was asked by Humanity in Action, our working partners, to do a little talk about transgender history and development, and also about LGBT rights in Pakistan. Well, to start with, I would just say I'm not an expert in this region, but I would try my best to tell whatever information I've got through my own experiences while working with the trans community and also knowing LGBT people in Pakistan. I wouldn't use the word community for LGB because I don't feel that there is as such some community, or there's an existence of a community for LGB, but there is for sure a transgender community in Pakistan, which is basically a transgender women community. Because if I start with the history, well, many of you already know that Pakistan and India, they were same. The country was ruled by British empires, and during the colonial times, it was the same country. So I would start my history even before the colonial times of subcontinent or India, where about transgender history. Transgender people, or especially transgender women, have had an important role in Pakistani or in subcontinental history. They served in king's courts back in the days, and they were also recognized as people with knowledge and mannerism. Actually, in olden days, people would send their younger kids to learn mannerism through trans women. So trans people were respected back then, but that's one of the many other drawbacks of colonialism. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, good, because I had just this pop-up which says here is not presenting anymore, so I thought I was going on offline. Anyways, but yeah, so if we go back into the history, this community or those trans individuals back in many years ago enjoyed a higher status in the society, but after British colonial law, there were rules and both legislations and also unset rules were imposed, and discrimination was imposed toward this community. Back then, it was seen as obscene nature that if you dress up as a trans women were considered men with obscene nature. I can't exactly name the remember the whole name for that, but it was something which actually means perverts, and trans people were not allowed to go out on the streets back during the colonial laws. So this oppression or this discrimination made it much difficult for trans individuals to live as individuals. So that was the first time when trans community or trans women people they felt need for a community. So since then, trans people, they started building a community, as in supporting each other, where they made trans families and had started creating an underground community or a subculture which is known for Hijra community or Khwaja community in Southeast Asia or South Asia, I think it is. Then after partition, Pakistan became a Muslim territory or a Muslim Republic country. So the situation for trans women became even more difficult. So there was even bigger need for such communities. There are incidents in the history where people or trans children were thrown, or flamboyant boys were thrown out of their families, and they took shelters at trans communities or at trans houses. So this is how the whole transgender community was built up, where trans people, they started supporting each other. People started taking positions of mother, father for trans children who were out in the street as prey. So that was one of the initial steps when community started to become. Later on, Pakistan had, due to the religious laws, Pakistan had even more strict laws towards alternative sexualities or alternative genders. So that means more oppression towards trans community. So transgender people were even more ostracized. So if you look at it today, you will find trans people in almost all bigger cities in Pakistan, where they live in smaller houses in almost slum kind of areas, and those houses are called data. That means trans hub, where one or the head of the house would be called guru, and the rest of them living with that guru will call chela or parishes. Since there had not been official acknowledgement of trans people, so the survival of transgender women had basically been depended on being into 3 different professions. One of them had been beggary, and then it is dancing at the wedding ceremonies or child's birth, and the third is sex work. So these are the 3 options trans people have had in many years. But since the community has grown to such a big number, so today you would see trans people almost all the bigger cities in Pakistan, and the number is exceeding more than I mean, officially number is 2 million, but I'm sure there are more people, more trans people in Pakistan. So in 2009, a Pakistani Supreme Court decided that they would give them a right of third gender, which actually means if you're born with ambiguous sexuality, or if you're born with a certain syndrome, which is equal to if you're a hermaphrodite or intersex person, then you can actually have a gender X or a third gender in your passport or your identity card. But since Pakistan is also a Muslim country, so nobody has a right to go into very personal details how one person look or is inside his or her clothes. So a lot of, that was actually one happy moment for a lot of trans people who have not even had any documentation of their being in Pakistan or being citizen in Pakistan, actually started getting a Pakistani identity or citizenship by having a third gender law. But then again, third gender law has also a lot of issues, as in the law is actually for people who are born with certain syndromes, or people who are born intersex or hermaphrodite. So it's, since a couple of years, it's been a little more difficult to acquire a third gender law or a third gender into your documentation if you are a trans person, or if you feel as a trans woman, or just yeah. And then a few other limitations are in Pakistan, if you are to get any kind of documentation on yourself, so you need to have your parents to acknowledge or sign your documents. And many trans people have left their homes, or many, not all of them, but many of them, they are not in touch with their parents. So it's also difficult for them because they were thrown out of their families in the childhood. So it's also difficult for them to acquire the third gender. So this is basically the information or the experience I've got on transgender community in Pakistan. When we talk about a LGB or gay community, I mean, if you go into Pakistani society, it's much different to the one we have it here in Europe. Pakistan is a country which is divided into classes. So people with privileges, people with benefits, they can enjoy whatever sexuality or gender they are, or they are affiliated to, but it's all about classes. So I'm not sure I'm the right person to talk about the LGBT community, but I don't feel there is an existence of LGBT community in Pakistan. Yeah, this is basically it. Other than that, I would just introduce myself, what I do. I've been involved with and how I got involved with trans community. Back in 2012, I guess, yeah. I started a project of a film called Chupan Chupai, which I shot with trans people and gay people in Pakistan. And this was my first exposure or entrance to the trans community or gay community in Pakistan, or gay people in Pakistan. And since then, I've been involved in a lot of activism in Pakistan. I have recently started a film festival which caters trans and sexual minorities in Pakistan. It's called AX Film Festival. And basically the things we do, we take some films and screen those films to community members and also mainstream Pakistanis, and try to create a platform where we can discuss issues after the film, because this is how we can actually try to build a bridge between those two communities, because trans community is considered the bottom end of the of a Pakistani class hierarchy, because they are ostracized, and most of them are low-income individuals. So it's much harder for them to have an access to or exposure to other people. So this is how I thought I can contribute when I started this project. And we had our first AX festival in Pakistan back in 2014 in December, and then we had one in Copenhagen, the similar festival, where we tried to talk about third gender and Pakistani trans community in Copenhagen as well. I know many of you must be thinking about, like, when I talk about trans community, I'm only referring to trans women. But yeah, then again, there is an existence of trans men as well. But I would also call it trans men as more as an individuals. It's hardly a visible minority in Pakistan of trans men, since then again another cultural context, that boys are valued more than girls. So okay, I've got this question. All right, okay. All right, yeah. So I was just talking about I'll come back to this Farsi kalam as well. Yeah, so boys are valued more than girls. So if my own personal experience with trans men in Pakistan is that as soon your family or you decides to identify yourself as a trans man, so sometimes it's easier for the family to have another boy child in the family, and it can be it's more accepted in the community as a part of the mainstream gender community. I'm just. Do you want to read this question? No, not yet.
Okay, hi again.
Hi.
We have a question from Adi, who's with us from Croatia. And Adi is asking if you could say something about Farsi Kalam, this special coded language used by the transgender community. It was mentioned in the essay that was uploaded for us, but I found it very interesting. I would like to know more about it from Adi. So you can just...
All right. I mean, that's good. I mean, it's actually making things more easier for me. That's good. It's actually making things more easier for me, because I think it's. I felt like I'm just talking to myself. So, but now I've got a question finally. That's good. All right. Since I was talking about trans community, or the making of the trans community, or the unions which were set up back then. It's actually Farsi Kalam is a very coded language. It's a mixture of Urdu, English, Latin, Hindi, and many other smaller languages in the region. And they made trans women community have made this a conversational language between the community. It's more or less to safeguard themselves. It's more like where you might have heard about this coded language is between the army troops when they want to hide their secrets from other peoples, that they would speak this coded language. So initially it started this way, but since the community is so big and the existence has been for so long, so it actually became a uniformed language. And when, if you're sitting with trans people and they are talking to each other, even though it sounds familiar, it's very close to Urdu or Punjabi, which is a general Pakistani languages, but it's not at all like that. It's a coded language. It's understood between trans community. I've heard, like, for 10 years ago, you were if you're not from the community or you're an outsider and you do have an access to the community, but community will stricten themselves not to teach you any Farsi language. But since past 10 years, non-community members are also welcome to learn this language. There are still some old school trans people in Pakistan who would get angry if they figure out that non-community members are learning the language. But I've experienced in the last couple of years that trans women are more open to teach you this language, and it's a funny language. It's very direct, and it's very convenient because that's the language. It's only understood between them, and they can easily keep their secret, so they can easily communicate to each other without having people around them being alert about whatever they're talking. And it's very important to have this kind of language, or this kind of what you call it, this kind of method, because then again, since the community is ostracized, when trans women, they go out on the street, they often get bullied by people. So this is a tool they try to safeguard themselves with. Any more questions? Okay. Yes. Apart from well, the benefits of the third gender law, I would say, you would see actually in the current Pakistani situation, you will see Pakistani government is actually started making some quotas for trans community. Now they are actually getting access to the jobs, to the schools, and also public health, but not all of them. It's on a very, very minimum level. The number of trans women is, I would believe, it's more than 10 million, since Pakistani population is 160 million. So I'm pretty sure trans women are more than 10 million in Pakistan. But only, I think, 1,000 to 2,000 people have acquired this third gender law. The rest of them are still in the pending, but this law has benefited a few. I know a few friends who've got a job into the tax department, where they go to people and who are not paying tax. Well, one other thing which you might have noticed, that if you have seen any videos about trans people, you will see them clapping with their hands like that, which actually is a kind of a way of expression, where you actually try to, if you're a trans person and if someone is bullying you, so you try to defend yourself with a clap, have hand claps. So this hand clap thing is a shameful thing for if a trans person come to you and do that. So this had happened, that I think Sindh government, the southern Pakistani government, has hired a few trans women to go to different shops and ask them to pay tax with those hand claps, and it actually worked in few spaces. And then I've known a few artist friends who have hired trans women for their art projects, and that's basically it's a baby step forward, but there's a lot more to do still. Yeah. When we talk about trans Pakistan, or trans women in Pakistan, it's a whole another world. I think it's not very similar to trans women or trans people in the West. Trans people in the West would be you want to ask this question? Okay.
Yeah, just 2 seconds.
Okay, you muted yourself. Okay. All right. Okay. I will just read the question, then I'll just tell you about it. Could you tell a little? Well, Magnus Harrison is a friend of ours. he's asking a question about. I would just read his question. Could you tell a little bit more about how it is to be transgender on a day-to-day basis in Pakistan, and if you see or know of any similarities to Europe and Denmark? Yes. Well, one major similarity is trans people are discriminated both in Europe and also in Pakistan, but the level of discrimination is different since the trans women community in Pakistan is the only existing diversity or gender diversity in Pakistan. So it's been quite visible. It's been quite upfront, especially in the urban parts of Pakistan. So the discrimination is there, but it works on another way. It's like that community is living with us, but they are part of our society, but we don't care for them. We're not bothered as long they come up and ask for something. Pakistan is a developing country where everyone has not got their rights, and especially if you belong to a minority, you are even down in the bottom row. So the trans people's day-to-day life will be like yeah. I mean, I would say trans people in Pakistan, you won't see them alone on the street because of the security measures. So they are more they live more of a communal lifestyle. They would have they will always be accompanied by their other trans friends, and they would always be accompanied and always have taken those precaution levels that they are in a society which is less tolerant. But on the other hand, Denmark or the West is a tolerant society, but I just feel or I just experience that trans community here is more on individual basis, and there's not a big or as such a big community soul as it should be, or it is in those countries like Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, and South Asia. So this is the bigger difference I would say. How it is to be a transgender person in Pakistan. Of course, I mean it's a challenging life. Right from your childhood, you come to this reality that you by having this feeling of being transgender person, you are a part of this ostracized community, and you will not have the rights as other people or as your siblings would enjoy. So many of them are thrown out of their family. I could share a story of my very good friend Neeli Rana, who is now 40 years old, and she was only 7 years old when her father actually kicked her out of her house. and she then her life was started as a 7 years old, living out in the street and started beggary in the beginning, then found a trans family, and then started living a trans family, and then again her trans journey started by being into the old school 3 transgender professions of dancing on childbirth or beggary, and then sex work. But I'm not sure if Needy has also been involved in all 3. But this is a destined lifestyle for trans community or trans women in Pakistan. If you belong to this community, so these are the 3 options you're left with. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, what else should I talk about? I've actually made a few notes right now. But
Otherwise, I have a question.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking, because you said that there are no visible lesbians and gays on the streets of Pakistan. But how do you see the cooperation between, this LGBT? How do you see the cooperation? Are the transgenders fighting for the lesbian and bi and gay rights, or how is this set up in Pakistan?
Well, okay. Well, when we talk about LGBT rights, it's a very Western terminology. When we go to those countries, human rights is actually one of the first questions that comes up your head, because a lot of people are actually suffering from not having the basic rights. So LGBT rights is a big question. But I have seen since last couple of years, there is a talk about LGBT rights. There are a few organizations who are working to initiate a dialogue. One of them is actually X Festival. We started a dialogue about diversity, not only in gender but also in sexuality. So and then there are a few other organizations who are working for health sector in Pakistan, where they are trying to provide awareness and education about HIV and AIDS. They also try to work for LGBT issues and try to initiate at least a dialogue about LGBT in a form of creating some safe spaces. If someone is in trouble for guidance, so there are a few platforms where you can go and get help, but it's on a very minimum level. It's not at all something like that, something like we experience here in the West. So LGBT rights are still a long way to go in that region. So yeah, so but then again, since the country is segregated into classes, so you would also find people who are openly talking about LGBT, or there are certain classes who can actually have it as a there are like existing openly gay couples and lesbians in Pakistan, but then it's all part of it's all part of the society. If you belong to a certain class, so you can enjoy your individuality, but if you are part of the classes where you don't even enjoy basic human rights, so it's much difficult for you to talk about LGBT. I'm asked to talk more about. Well, yeah, I would say about I would talk a little bit more about third gender law, which I found a little funny when I discussed it with a few friends of mine in Pakistan. Um, uh, I personally believe third gender law was made out of ignorance because when you consider the law of third gender law, so basically it is imposed or considered a law should be given to trans women community. So there is not a it's the trans men or other trans identities are not even considered in third gender law. So there is a lot of things to be considered in third gender law. But on the other way, third gender, if you acquire third gender law, so at least you will have your access to the basic rights. So if a person who have had no identity at all now got like an identity code or card or a passport which enables you to have access to basic education or basic health or even travel around the world. So then it makes sense. Otherwise, I personally was a little confused about the way the gender law is made because it hasn't gone much more into the details of how to and who to be given this law or right. Is there any other question, please? Okay.
Not at the moment, but maybe you could or we could talk about the future for either the legislation on this area for lesbians and gays and legislation on that. How do you see the future for the legislation for equal rights in Pakistan? You have come this far with the transgenders, but what is the next step?
Well, it's harder to predict what future lies or what future promises us. But so far, just the way the big change is happening in West, where most countries are actually having a slightly right-wing governments. This is the same in East as well. So the current government in Pakistan, in India, and also other countries in the region are more right-wing or are more conservative. So far, future doesn't seems very bright. Actually, the time when third gender law was given, Pakistan was under. I'm not sure, but I think so. Pakistan was still under semi-military government, and which happened to be a little bit more open-minded and more accepting than the current government in Pakistan is, which is a much more conservative government, and this government has actually also tried to impose the law that if you are to acquire this third gender law, you need to be you need to prove yourself as you're born as a transgender person. So this proves that if Pakistan is about to get more conservative and religious governments, so it will be more difficult for trans people and LGBT people to survive. But on the other hand, there's a lot of a focus on LGBTIQ movements since a lot of foreign governments or a lot of embassies in Pakistan, they want they have actually adopted one of the one of their missions are to create or to bring forth the LGBT rights in Pakistan or in that region. So which is a slightly positive sign. So on a personal capacity, there are a few organizations who are working, non-governmental organizations who are working for LGBT rights, or at least they're initiating a dialogue about LGBT and trying to build a community. But on the governmental level, it's not exactly the same. Then thanks to internet, information is also out there now. I would say if you see a 90s kids or early 2000 kid, that won't have the same amount of information as the kids have it today. So internet and the media is playing a bigger role. Bollywood is making films which talk about LGBT rights or showing gay couples and lesbian couples. Even Pakistani television has also started films and drama TV serials which actually bring forward some undertoned LGBT characters or something that can initiate a dialogue about diversity. So I think where there's a bigger oppression, but there's also a tiny hope of freedom through the resources we have in today's world. There's media out there. There's art projects are going on. Then there's also a lot of the governments in around the world, or they are putting pressures on those countries to deal with those issues as human rights issues. So which is a positive thing. I've heard like a few years back, EU has passed a bill that they won't support those countries who are not actually considering LGBT rights as a human right. So which is a very positive thing. So yeah, hopefully in near future things won't be the same, and it's already it can already be sensed, but on the other hand, the right wing and conservative people are also gaining power, and they are also making it more difficult. So this is the situation right now.
And concerning this dialogue you're talking about that have opened, we did a project together here in Denmark, with Arts Festival and Humanity in Action, this gender and identity. And we had two transgender activists up here. Could you maybe tell a little bit how they felt to be in Denmark, and what did they gain from being here? Like, what could they learn us, and what could we learn from them here in Denmark or in the West?
Well, we had actually three activists from Pakistan. We had Neeli Rana, who is actually one of the pioneer transgender activists in Pakistan, who actually started this debate on third gender and fought the fight and actually made it happen. She's actually not only the one, but she and a few friends of hers started this third gender movement. Then we had Sadaat, who is a national level dancer in Pakistan and now also working for LGBT rights in an organization that works for AIDS and HIV awareness. And then we had Kami Chaudhary, who is, by the way, Janet and Neeli both they are both from Lahore, and Kami is from Karachi, which is the biggest city in Pakistan. So Kami is also working for LGBTIQ rights, and they were all three invited to attend Pax Festival and also Gender and Sexuality Conference by Humanity in Action. Well, the first about Denmark was the freedom they enjoyed here, the freedom they saw here, the freedom they saw, the acceptance and the tolerance between general people, because they would not dare to go outside without giving a second thought in Pakistan. But over here, they felt much more free. They felt it's people hardly cared how they looked like and what they are. People smiled at them. So that was the one of the biggest learning experience they had taken from Denmark. But on the other hand, they had also expressed that they found it much harder to find other trans people in Pakistan, in Denmark. So that was a little not disappointment, but that was like a strange situation for them, because they are used of seeing trans people in Pakistan when they go out, and trans community is much more visible in Pakistan. But they found that Denmark or a trans community in Denmark was very less visible, and it was much harder to get in touch with other trans people on a coincidence level. It was more, you have to prepare, you have to contact some certain organizations to meet other trans people. So there was a two major things they talked about while they were here. Apart from it, they had the experience of joining the festival where we talked about different issues, and then they also had a chance to be part of debates at Pride Square. They experienced the Pride in Copenhagen, which was their first Pride ever in life, and which was a very positive experience they've had. These are the few things where which they actually took it with themselves as the best memories, and I think when I asked them, like, how did you feel about Denmark, and the only thing that came out of their mouth, that was like, it's a free country, and they loved it because there was a lot of freedom in this country. So I'm sure this was the biggest impression they had it here.
Yes, and if there aren't any more questions from you out there, and maybe Sadaat would like to, round up, give some main points on what you've talked about, and then we can say goodbye for today. But just mention a few main points.
Okay, well, if you one of the main concerns or main points I would point out today, it's I'm sure we are living in a diverse world. Cultures and religions and your circumstances, they play a big role, or at least it plays a very big role in the societies outside this Western world. So we need to create an understanding and we need to understand how a situation can modify the whole scenario from one place to another, because the type of LGBT or LGBT rights we talk about here, it's much more difficult, or it's much more non-relevant for the countries like Pakistan. So I'm sure that the things which I told you about transgender women community in Pakistan, it's a unique community. It's a community that has an existence in Pakistan or India, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and that region in particular. And it works for them there because that was the only way out for a survival. So we should us living in this privileged world, or maybe less privileged world, we can only make efforts to make this world better living for other people by doing small steps. So whoever is listening out there, I would suggest you to not to see this word with the same prism as we see it here, that we talk about LGBT rights in certain manner. Things should be modified, things should be analyzed before we talk about other communities around the world and their existence and their survival ways. So this is how I would round it up. And I don't know how prepared I was, but it's my first Google Hangout, and I felt like I've been talking to myself and my dear friend on the other side. So if you enjoyed it, please send a thumbs up. Or I would also like to encourage you guys to go online to our website called aksfestival.com and follow on our work and whatever we do. We are about to start our second edition of Pakistani LGBT film, or Pakistani Transgender and Sexual Minority Festival in January 2016. So if you are in Pakistan or you're around, please come and say hi. If you're not, just send us an email and encourage our work with your feedback or whatever you want to send us. So that would be so good. Thank you so much.
And that's it. We all look forward to see you to the activity hour this Thursday. We hope you will think a little bit more about what Sadaat told you about Pakistan. And then it's up for discussion this Thursday. So thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.